is here.
The makers of Colace invite you to feel free. Free of dye, free of gluten, free of stimulants. Colace Clear for occasional constipation. Feel free to go.
Closed captioning brought to you by MeSoBook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. That's why we offer this free book. Call 1-800-400-5415.
All right, welcome back to CNN's continuing coverage of what happened here in Paris. Hala Garani, Chris Cuomo in a very quiet Paris. We're in the Place de la République here. People are mourning, just like after Charlie Hebdo. But now there is a new silence here. There is a concern. Charlie Hebdo, they knew who was attacked. They knew what it was about. They knew it was Islamism on display. Now it is about the unknown, what will happen next. The investigation is continuing. We have new developments. CNN has learned from a member of the French Senate that one of the people who exploded themselves in an attempt to kill others at the French soccer stadium came to Europe as part of an organized group smuggled in with refugees who landed on the Greek island of Leros a month ago, carrying a Syrian passport. He was given under emergency provisions. There are also new details about one of the other attackers as well, Hala.
Sorry, we were just very briefly interrupted there. Let's talk a little bit about the man who has been named, a 29-year-old who was born in this country, last name Mustafa, born in France, known as a petty criminal. Right now, 6 of his relatives are being questioned by authorities, and they've been taken into custody, though it's important to note they're not arrested. They are simply providing information. In fact, his brother turned himself in. Let's bring in French Senator Joëlle Garriaud-Maylam. She's a senator who has some information about the attackers from what you're hearing. Thanks for being with us here. We've been reporting this information about a Syrian passport, about possibly 2 false Turkish passports as well found to be carried by the suicide bombers at the Stade de France. What have you been hearing?
I've been hearing the same. Since this morning we've heard about this Syrian person, which is no surprise at all. Everybody seems so surprised. But it was quite obvious. Daesh had warned that they would send jihadists with the refugees, and it was so obvious it would happen sooner or later. It is a tragedy because obviously there are lots of refugees who need humanitarian help, but it was so, we were so sure, and I've said it on many occasions, that there would be terrorists among themselves. You know, this question of refugees is so important because from one point of view, we haven't helped enough the countries which have refugee camps. I've been to all these camps in Iraq, in Turkey, in Lebanon, in Jordan. People there are desperate. Yeah. They don't have jobs. It's also a threat for the balance of these countries. Jordan is such a small country, and it's extremely dangerous for them. We need to help these countries, and we needed to do that before they would come to our shores.
The irony is that people are fleeing these dangers in desperation, and yet the longer they are held out, the longer they are left vulnerable, the more vulnerable they are to being co-opted by Islamism and other toxic philosophies to justify their own desperation. But the question becomes for you, Madam Senator, what do you do? Just because it's inevitable that they would infiltrate refugees with terrorists, how do you stop this from happening again? How do you balance helping those who need it with keeping people out of your country who are here to kill?
Yeah, we are very late, and I must say I'm a bit upset at the government because we should have closed the borders and have a much more thorough analysis of who was coming long before. It's not a new item. Since 2010, we've been told that Daesh
would come. European borders or close French borders?
In our European borders, okay. French borders, but also the European borders. Of course, it's extremely difficult to do, but we have to have a much stronger politics of being much more careful, because we've been aware of the danger for years, and we have been like ostriches, you know, putting our heads into the sand while we should have fought much harder. We need to look at every single person authority, but we need to work not solely as France, as one country. We need to work with international communities. This is not a French problem.
But closing French borders, this is a very radical proposal in the European Union, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, of course. We've got the Schengen, agreement, and we are not supposed to close them that way. It's not really a matter of closing them down, but just checking more carefully. But for that, we need as well.
How do you keep borders open but check more carefully? Obviously, it's not working the way it is.
It's also, no, it's not working. It's also a question of the borders, which are so huge in our country and within Europe. I mean, when you look at Central Asia as well, you have countries which we need to help. I was recently in Central Asia, Tajikistan. For instance, the foreign minister was telling me, we need help. We don't know how to fight cyber attacks, which is something which has already happened with us on TV5, this international channel, which is costing a horrendous amount of money. It's bound to happen again. We need to help these countries because the border between Afghanistan and Tajikistan is so porous, and from there people come through land and sometimes as well just through the normal borders with false passports, as it had been stressed.
Joël Gallo-Melem, senator here in France, and also the Secretary of the Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs as well, joining us. Thanks very much there with your reaction to what has been a really traumatic series of events in France.
And obviously you're trying to balance the news of the threat and how to move forward with addressing the concern and the pain of your people. We are very sensitive to that as well. We know these are people in mourning. This is a tragedy, not just for the French. Everybody is under this threat. It's not about if it happens, it's when. And our hearts go out to you.
Yes, if I can just say one thing.
Please.
I'm so grateful to the American people and also to all these people all over the world who've shown their solidarity with us. I was told yesterday, for instance, in New York, just before an opera, the orchestra sang La Marseillaise. And this is so important to us because we feel the support and we need it. It is so important for the people of France. And so I wanted to thank you very much for your interest, but also for that moral support.
It's never been more true that we are all in it together when it comes to this war against Islamism and terror.
Extremism, and you were very right in saying that Obama has never mentioned Islamism, and that's also a problem. I think we need to use the right words. And violent extremism, yes, but we need also to stress the roots of the problem and not antagonize the Muslim community who is already in a difficult situation.
Senator, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Up next, the world, as we were mentioning, is at war with ISIS. But this war has not yielded the results that these countries conducting these military operations would have wanted.
The one point that I think the enemy and those combating them will share is that this is a long war and it is far from over. When we come back, what will be the next step after Paris?
We stop arthritis pain so you don't have to stop. Tylenol 8-Hour Arthritis Pain has 2 layers of pain relief. The first is fast.